Hello, and welcome to Defined by Ethan McKellar. Today's subject is federal spending. Federal spending is commonly defined as the spending by our national government for the year. However, it's more complex than just that. Our government has a complex budget of mandatory and discretionary spending. The political polarization on this issue has been evident for years. One side is for the increase in spending for public interests such as education and science, while the other believes in the broad increase of military spending. This graph displays a relationship between the surplus and deficit of GDP from 1980 to 2012, with the CBO estimate going to 2023. There are obvious points of where spending outweighed where revenue came in, for instance. 2008, whenever there was a major recession and the house market collapsed, and under Obama during the War on Terror, during the 80s with Reaganomics, the 89, and then inclusion into the Gulf Wars under Bush and Clinton, and there's a small increase right here in which Clinton brought the spending down and we had a surplus. Among these times of conflict, there are times of decreases that resemble the times of peace, which include the 1950s to the early 60s to the mid 1980s. They also resemble the presidencies that presided over these time periods, such as Reagan's military growth during Reaganomics. What is the difference? What is the difference between mandatory and discretionary spending? These two different groups of spending are very similar as they are both proposed by the president and passed or changed by the legislature. Then the president decides. Mandatory, however, are proponents of government spending that cannot be controlled or budgeted. For instance, Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security are not budgeted. The cost of it is continuously increasing. We can restrict that increase over time with regulations. For instance, Medicaid and Medicare are part of mandatory spending and are provided by law. Discretionary, however, is appropriated by legislature. Congress created the Appropriations Committee in order to ease the process of amending the proposal. One example of discretionary spending is the Department of Transportation, as it isn't guaranteed money by law and is budgeted. Okay, our economy has been stricken by a growing debt that has doubled from 2009. One explanation of this occurrence is the end of the gold standard in 1971, causing inflation. This has been caused by the difference in the national revenue and spending. As shown in the graph, in 1941, regulation of the gold standard ended under FDR, and in 1971 it was completely ended. And ever since this inflation, our spending and GDP has grown exponentially. In 2009, we crossed the $10 trillion in debt. In 2017, we crossed $20 trillion in debt. We've had political polarization on how to fix this issue. The Balanced Budget Amendment has garnered support from both sides of the aisle, but hasn't gone through to be passed by Congress. The Balanced Budget Amendment works in the sense that we create a ceiling by how much money we make in a year limits how much we spend that year. The more money we make, the more we can put back into ourselves. This causes a stop in the increase of spending and slows our debt and can potentially bring down our debt from the vast amounts it's already reaching. This is essentially what it would look like. This would stop the deficit, increase the chance for surplus, but also runs the risk of some groups not receiving the funding they need. Although it's commonly avoided topic, it is highly necessary for us to talk about, since this is the topic that comes up every political year and can directly affect your health, income, occupation, and lifestyle. It's important for the people of the United States to understand what is being decided for them and what they need to do to voice their opinions.